My name's Emma. I'm a compulsive eater and bulimic from London. Very grateful to be here today, sharing my story. I weigh and measure 3 meals off the grey sheet. I write them down. I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat in between, no matter what. And I eat what I say, no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing in my life, without exception. My abstinence date is the 29th of August, and it's day 92 today. And I can't believe that I've made it. And before we start, I'm gonna, we talked in this meeting about chips, and I think I said that I was buying myself a chip for every 30 days. So here is my 3-month chip, which now sits with the other two. So I want to follow the kind of format of what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And I've been reflecting a bit on that over the last few days and this morning, just to say that my heart is racing. So I'm just going to breathe a bit and just trust here that, whatever comes out is meant to come out, and I'm not necessarily going to cover everything. And I'm just trusting my higher power. And if I can say something that communicates some experience, strength, and hope, then I've done a good job. I did promise myself, and in my kind of negotiations with my higher power, when I was in the depths of my relapse, that if I ever got through this, I would commit my time and my effort, my service, to helping the still struggling compulsive eater, and especially those in relapse. So I really want to communicate a story of recovery from relapse today, and perhaps not spend so much time as I may have done in the past with other qualifiers about really talking about my childhood. I seem to have done a lot of that, but I want to talk about relapse. That said, I'm going to just touch on it briefly to say that food lit up for me from a very young age. It gave me comfort. I liked my food. I was praised for eating. I often talk about a sort of photo of me at my own birthday party in my very early years. No one else around the table, a table heaving full of party food, and me still eating. And for me, that sort of sums up my experience. The rest of the kids had left and were playing, and I was only interested in the food. And it's sort of up until about the age of 14, the only real manifestation of it was in myself feeling less than, feeling a sort of sense of shame, but my eating hadn't kind of tipped over yet. And then I did my first diet when I was 14, like many of us, I think, at that age, hitting puberty, the weight starting to, my body starting to change, becoming a woman. And my mother suggested Weight Watchers, and I went with her. And my mum is a foodie, can overeat, but she is not one of us by a long shot. So she could do the diet, and her weight came off week on week, and she stepped on the scales and she reached all of these Weight Watchers milestones. And within 2 weeks, I had already begun to manipulate a basic diet plan because I couldn't diet. And what I didn't know then, and wouldn't know for a very long time, is that the reason I couldn't do it is because I was actually eating foods that I am severely allergic to that were recommended as part of the diet plan. So I didn't stand a chance. And so, 2 weeks in, and I was starving myself the day before, eating all of my points in the first hour of the day, all of that stuff that would form the pattern of my eating to this very day, apart from these last 92 days, even in the few weeks when I came into GreySheet and when I couldn't get abstinent, I would still try and manipulate my food in that way. I couldn't ever diet. basically. You know, I could only do things in real extremes. So that meant that manipulation began, which then led to weight loss, and then to binge eating, and then bulimia. And then what followed was years of bulimia, and really at its very worst in my late teens and my early 20s, when I was back to back binging and purging all day, and I was very, very sick. But I don't want to spend too much time on that, and maybe that's for another share. I want to fast forward to about 12 years ago, when I had just had my two children, my daughters, who are now 12 and 14, nearly 13, nearly 15. And they were, you know, 2 and under, and I found myself in the worst possible place with my bulimia, having come through those pregnancies, breastfeeding. I was exhausted, and I'd done a kind of mad starvation diet at about a few months after giving birth. And it really brought me to my knees. And from that place, I just thought, I can't go on doing this. I can't. I've got daughters now. I was terrified, with girls especially, that I was going to fuck them up. And it was a real sense of, maybe I could kind of manage this when it was just me on my own in the world, but I have kids now. And so at that point, that was my entry point into 12-step, into OA. And I got a lot of relief there in terms of being with other people, the community, and a bit more of an awareness, although not quite the full awareness, of my particular brand of food addiction. But I got solace, and it was a wonderful experience, but I couldn't really get abstinent. And I just knew that what I was trying to do wasn't really the abstinence that I deserved somehow, you know, this kind of, I knew there was something better out there. And I found another food fellowship eventually that also weighed and measured, which really helped me, because quantities are a big, big part of my story, I think, with the bulimia especially. But my allergy to the quantities, I absolutely need to put my food on the scale, which is why any of the other stuff, the low carb plans, the keto plans, the whatever that gave a bit of relief from the substances in the food, still didn't go enough of a way, because I need really clear boundaries around how much I'm eating. And even now that I would say I'm fairly neutral to a lot of what the ingredients in the food, I still, if I didn't put my food on the scale, I just, you know, all bets are off. And indeed, my early months in GSA, that is how I broke my abstinence every time, was I went in for a bit more. So 3 years ago, just slightly over 3 years ago, after a period of, so I got in this food fellowship, I got abstinent, all the gifts, the promises started to come true. And I felt fantastic. My weight was normal and stable. The brain fog had lifted. I was doing really well in my work, in my relationship with my family. And then the series of events were happening, and they were, you know, now I know them as no matter what. That this is a new term for me in this fellowship. I didn't then. The biggest one was that we were having a lot of work done on our home, and there were several months where we were living kind of in one room, the 4 of us, my husband and my kids, and I was preparing my food. And there was a lot of, in this sort of environment in the house, which I know now is a massive trigger for me, really impacts the sort of deep-rooted sense of feeling safe. But I didn't have that awareness then. And I was starting to do slippy behavior that I was okaying. So what I know about relapse and picking up that first bite it's often months in the making. It was for me. And then I cannot even pinpoint, wow, I've got 5 minutes left. Okay. I cannot even pinpoint that moment, but something shifted and I found myself, it was a bit like staring down the barrel, and I held in my hands a bar of this kind of all out fear and trepidation. And I took that bite. And here I am, almost 3 and a bit years on. And there were some of you on this meeting who knew me then. And it has taken that long to get my abstinence back. You know, it has been really tough. Relapse is so tough. It's so tough because, you know, if you've experienced abstinence, then you have that awareness of how good it can feel to be clean, to eat clean, to show up in life with honesty, with integrity. And in an instant that was gone. And quicker than I could have ever imagined, all of those behaviors that had been there for me throughout my years of the food addiction were back. Not just the food I was eating, but the hiding, the sneaking, the stealing, the denial. And it was horrendous. And then what also happened was the physical manifestation was worse than I had ever known. It was just like my body was like, no way, not again, not again. And I was every night going to sleep, buckets of sweats, headaches, just, I mean, brain fog. Trying to show up for life like that was impossible. Anyway, I need to get on because there's not much time. What happened? What happened was I tried every trick in the book for 3 years, and I really showed up and tried. I tried every food fellowship out there. I did the deepest of dives into doing the 12 steps, and none of it got me abstinent. And I am so grateful because March this year, a global pandemic swept the world. And once again, I was there going, oh my God, there's 2 options here. I can either go further and further into the food, stuck in my home. How the hell am I going to hide that? I'm going to put my family at risk, going out, scouring the streets in a lockdown to get my drug, or I can do something different. And a little angel contacted me, someone I knew, someone on this meeting who had found this fellowship and said, hey, I found something and it's working for me. And I think you might like it. And there's meetings every day, several times a day. And I said to her, is there a meeting today? She said, there's one in 2 hours or something. And she sent me the link and I got on that meeting, and someone else here contacted me and said that they could sponsor me. And that was it. And then I didn't look back. You know, it took me 5 months to have my last day one. And that was okay. It just took what it took. But what I did, I showed up for a meeting every single day, sometimes several times a day. And I listened to all of you guys tell me how you do it. And I heard these wonderful slogans like meeting makers make it, which I'd never heard. And I got myself a community, an amazing community that I'd never had in any of the fellowships I'd been in before. And when I hit 90 days 2 days ago, it was like the best birthday ever. I had cards, presents, people singing down the phone to me, messages flooding in, you know, because this fellowship, and as I said, there were 6 food fellowships that I did. No other fellowship understood relapse more than this fellowship. I couldn't find a home in those fellowships. I just couldn't. And I remember saying at the time, where are the people like me? you know, then where are they? Well, here they are. Here you are. And I made a point of listening to every YouTube qualifier I could find, especially the ones around relapse. I made a list of people who had been relapsing, and then eventually, 6 months in, 1 year in, 2 years in, 5 years in, 10 years in, however many blooming years, but somehow at some point it shifted, and it gave me so much hope. It gave me so much hope. So I'm so grateful to be here. I hope for more opportunity to share my story, and I really want to make myself available to anyone in relapse or anyone counting days. Please reach out. You aren't alone. If I can do this with all of you guys can too. Thank you.